Hey everyone, welcome to Taste Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Well, the developers over at the Callisto Protocol not doing so hot. They're going through some layoffs. So Striking Distance Studios, that is the studio behind the Callisto Protocol. They're suffering some layoffs. So confirmed to IGN that 32 employees have been let go from the studio. This includes the production coordinator, Sebastian Marlowe, associate producer Nora Falcon, and senior environment artist Matthew Smith, and VFX artist Matt Christopherson. So that includes them, but of course there's more. The spokesman for Crafton, which is Striking Distance parent company, gave the following statement to IGN. Striking Distance Studios and Crafton have implemented strategic changes that realign the studio's priorities to better position its current and future projects for success. Unfortunately, these changes have impacted 32 employees, honoring the invaluable contributions of each departing team member with material support in the form of outplacement services and meaningful severance packages is our top priority during this difficult moment. So that's good stuff, at least for that. Striking Distance was founded in 2019 by the Dead Space co-creator Glenn Schofield. So the Callisto Protocol came out. That was their first title. Came out in December of 2022. Basically, it was kind of like a Dead Space spiritual successor in a sense, right? Because it was made by the co-developer, this Callisto Protocol was, of the original Dead Space. But I think I never played Callisto Protocol. I don't know if you had, Pat, but I know that game didn't do so hot critically or gamers out there. I think it was really middle of the road for most people. So, and that's unfortunate. I haven't played it yet. I plan on playing it at some point, but like I said, I've heard it's middle of the road. And for your first, that's some big shoes to fill. You're trying to kind of work off of Dead Space, because Dead Space is a very popular game, right? So you're working off the fact that you co-developed that, and you're creating a game very similar to that. And at that time, the remake for Dead Space wasn't out yet, right? I don't even think we knew about it when Callisto Protocol was coming out. So we thought Dead Space was DOA, and EA wasn't going to do anything with it anymore. And then we see Callisto Protocol, and everybody that's a Dead Space fan or a fan of the first couple games or whatever got excited for that. And then when Callisto Protocol comes out and doesn't meet or exceed the expectations of the first Dead Space game, that doesn't look great for your studio as a whole, right? Especially for your first outing. But I think maybe that has something to do with it. But Pat, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first read about the game, the Callisto Protocols, it all looked really cool and I wanted to play it. But then as it got closer and they started releasing more gameplay, I lost kind of interest in it, which I think happened to a lot of people, right? They were expecting the game to sell like 5 million copies, I think I read. And then they had to revise that they were selling below 2 million copies. So when you're expecting to make a big splash as your first game, and now their only game, I think that, so far that's their only game. I think that probably put a dent in a lot of what they're going to do. I don't know how big their studio is. I didn't quite see the numbers on it, but I don't know how many people, there's 32 people out of how many. But it does sound good that they're giving them that they're working to give them a severance package, giving them a separation package. But I mean, when you're expecting your game to sell 5 million copies and you have to revise that down to 2 million copies, that probably spells a little bit of disaster for you, right? I mean, you had way more hope in your game than anybody else did. And that's kind of the way that the reviews have kind of gone out, right? I think critically, the critics themselves were giving the game like in the 70s, the 70s, they were giving it 7 to 8 scores. And on average, the gamers were way below that. Some of them ranging in the 50s on the PC, low 60s on the PlayStation and mid 60s on the Xbox. So the game wasn't being reviewed that well by players. And it middle of the road reviews, is just like Nick said. So a middle of the road game for your first big push with the clout that you're supposed to have kind of spells bad news for you. I hate to hear layoffs, but the whole gaming industry right now is in trouble with layoffs and everything. And, everybody kind of bloated their studios around COVID time and before COVID, and then it slowed down all the games. And now all these companies are kind of paying for that, right? They got all this money from the publishers to make games and stuff like that. And then as the delay after delay after delay happened due to people having to work remote, COVID, all that, it just kind of snowballed. They could put their game out. They didn't do as well as they wanted. And instead of them being able to move on to something else, they've not had the time to. And now the money can only float them so far. And now it's dried up. So it's unfortunate. It really is. But it's the nature of the gaming market right now. A lot of gaming companies are laying people off, shifting IPs around, losing IPs, just everything. So it sucks. But I hope, it hasn't said what they're doing for those 32 people, but it did mention like severance of some kind. So hopefully they get something, right? Something to hold them over for a while until they can find their next job, next studio to come work for. Never like hearing about anybody losing their job or getting laid off. But their game kind of spoke for itself. Gamers didn't much care for it. And reviewers gave it a higher score than gamers do, which they typically do. Gamers are a little less forgiving, unfortunately, sometimes. It sucks, but hopefully they get a good severance package, set them up for a few months, and they'll find something new and move on to whatever. I mean, I have not played the Callisto Protocol myself. Like I said, I was waiting for it to go on sale, like a deep sale, before I got it, like half off, like $30 or something. And I was going to plan to pick it up because it did look good. It just, from the gameplay videos I saw, it just wasn't something that I immediately had to jump out and get. And as you guys know, we review new games, and we did not review that one because it just wasn't trending well, and it didn't look to the group of us. It didn't look good enough that we wanted to spend our money. And we spent our money on some crap games before, but this one we at least got to see before it came out that it wasn't something that was going to sit well with us. So, I don't know. It'll probably go on sale now, and we'll get to pick it up for pretty cheap. You gonna pick it up when it goes on sale, Nick?
Yeah, I will. I mean, it's got to be a deep sell. I'm the same as you, like pretty cheap. I was pretty interested in it when it first showed off the cutscene or the CGI trailer that they had when they first showed off the game. But once they showed off gameplay and stuff like that, I started to lose interest in what they were showing off. And I think in part too, it the expectations that we had as gamers, again, coming out, I think touting all the Dead Space stuff and making it look similar to Dead Space in the CGI trailer and stuff like that. I think for them, it probably, at first they probably thought it would be beneficial, but I think that might have hurt them ultimately, right? To kind of go in that direction with the game and with the look, and kind of, they got the X, because that's what I think a lot of people were probably expecting, is almost like a Dead Space clone in a sense, right? Like a spiritual successor to Dead Space. So it's similar to Dead Space, but just better. And the game is, even though it is set in space, it's completely different from what I'm understanding. I mean, there are guns in the game, but it's mostly melee, I think, is most of the game. You have melee because the guns aren't as good, from what I've read, right? Like I said, I haven't played it. And they have a lot of similarities to Dead Space, but it just didn't, live up to that Dead Space hype. And I think that might have hurt it ultimately as far as the game goes, right? And then now we have the Dead Space remake that came out. And so that right there, that remake pretty much just trumped any talk of Callisto Protocol, right? Pretty much no one cares about Callisto Protocol. The Dead Space remake is great. It's a great remake. And so people that didn't play the original Dead Space or wanted something more from Callisto Protocol probably just went off and played that instead. Right now, granted, that was a year or so later that we got that remake, but still, or a couple years later maybe. But again, it's, what I read online is basically, the game Callisto Protocol wasn't wasn't very good. It just wasn't very fun. It was very middle of the road, and a lot of people didn't seem to like it. So I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to play it. I think it was something that we were going to review, and then it just kind of went to the wayside because we were like, I don't know if we want to play this or not. And it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate for the people that are working at striking distance, and it's unfortunate, to see people get laid off. Certain companies, I feel like, you really gotta, especially if you're a new company, you really gotta come out of the gate swinging, right? And it's not for the lack of trying. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they tried their best and created the best thing they could possibly create. But if you don't, have a banger out of the door, it's really hard to recoup that, especially from gamers as well, right? Because your next outing, if your first outing is sour, your next one might still leave a bad taste in gamers' mouths, so they may not pick up your next one, right? Or they may lose interest in anything that you're creating. If you can throw out some good ones, it's okay if you throw out crap cut from time to time, right? Gamers are like, that's cool. Maybe the next one. But when you throw out something not great the first time around, they're a little shy about the next one. So, we don't know what they're creating next. I haven't seen anything since then. I know they created some DLC for the Callisto Protocol, so maybe they were working on that, but I think they finished that up. And so now they're just moving on to, whatever their next game is. Hopefully they do knock it out of the park. Maybe the next game will be something that people really enjoy, and it'll, put their name on the map, and there'll be a developer to look out for. But as of right now, they're not. And for the parent company, I understand, but they got to be looking at them going, I don't know, and maybe give them one more shot. And if it's not, then that striking distance may be closed for good. Right, depending on what happens. We really don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But luckily, it seems like the parent company is trying to take care of the employees that are leaving, so that's good news. But yeah, there is a lot of closures and layoffs and stuff going around quite a bit out there in the industry right now.
Way too many delays, and then the gaming industry has cooled off now that COVID's over. Less people are playing as much, right? We're not stuck at home now. So people are getting to get out, and not as many people are playing for as long. So they need more games to fill that space. So right now it's, the gaming market is correcting itself. It had overinflated due to COVID, and now it's self-correcting, and all these investors and development studios and publishers are hurting because all their games are out, or they're coming out and they didn't do as well as they thought they were because they're up against some really stiff competition for games. And like we'd said, I'd heard and saw videos that the combat in this game is really, really bad, and that's what kind of drags it down. So it was like, what are you going to do? Your game, I believe they were touting this as a really big AAA game, and then they underdelivered, overpromised and underdelivered. That's a bad combination for a game. And the PC version was completely wrecked when it came out. So I think that probably ruined a lot of people's taste right there. To have to say we're going to sell 5 million copies, and then I think we're going to get lucky to sell 2 million. That's a problem.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, when your game's main focus is combat, right? Combat and exploration. If you can't get combat right? I don't care if it's all melee. That's fine with me. But if the melee's janky and so is the gunplay, and that's not fun to do, then everyone's going to lose interest in playing it. That's just it. Regardless if you create a cool world and have cool enemies and a nice story and stuff, if you can't beat up that one zombie because the game just doesn't respond to your, or whatever, people aren't going to be able to experience what you've created because they're going to lose interest because they're going to get frustrated by the mechanics that you've put in place. For these games, you really got to nail down your primary mechanics. And make sure that those are fun before you start creating the world and the atmosphere and things like that. If your combat or whatever it is, whatever mechanic you're trying to, put a spotlight on in the game, if it doesn't work like it should, then people have a hard time getting through it. and you're just not going to have that backing that you need. So it's unfortunate, but we'll see what happens next with Striking Distance. What's the next game they're going to create? Callisto Protocol sequel? Probably not. Probably something new, I would imagine. But that's fine. Try something new. Try to go in a different direction, creating something new. I would say, I wouldn't mind if they stayed with the sci-fi kind of suspense horror type theme. That's really cool. We don't have a ton of those, especially in space. We have a lot of horror games and stuff, but sci-fi games in general, we don't get a lot of those. So, unless they're an RTS or something, and we get a lot of those. But these first person adventure kind of sci-fi games, we don't get a ton of those compared to other. Fantasy is like probably one of the highest, right? When it comes to games like that, fantasy genre and stuff. So, do you got anything else you want to say about this, Pat?
No, I think they're rumored to be working on a Marvel game of some kind.
Oh, well, good
that's
luck
rumors. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Marvel games are kind of a real hit and miss. So
they are.
Hopefully they pick something good to make a game out of.
Yeah, they are a real hit and miss, and it's unfortunate too because the hits. We talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's a extreme hit, right? That game was so good, and it just didn't get the love that I don't think that it should have gotten. And I think people were soured from the Avengers and some other Marvel games that didn't live up to snuff, right? And so when you have those good ones that are sprinkled in there here and there, it's really hard to get people on board because they're just so bogged down. So I mean, good luck to them, in that. It's the same with like Star Wars games too, right? I mean, we have the Jedi ones, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Order that were really good, but we've had some in the past that were really good, but then we have some that are sprinkled in that are complete trash. Right? So those are a real hit and miss as well. So you never know. You never know if you're going to get like a golden nugget or it's just, this is crap. This is just crap. It had a little golden sheen on it, but I was able to smear it off and there's nothing but crap under there. So it's hard to tell, but yeah. So those, Star Wars games, I think, and Marvel games, superhero games have those, that kind of, look upon them, of people just being very wary of them because they don't know if there's something good here or it's just complete garbage. Unfortunate with those games. It depends on who gets them, right? And how they develop them, what they make. The Avengers, Crystal Dynamics got them, but it was that live service thing that gets you every time. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know down in the comments below. What did you think of the Callisto Protocol? Have you played it? I do plan on playing it at some point. When it comes out super duper cheap, I've been trying to find a like super cheap. I'm talking super cheap, like Walmart bargain bin is when I will pick it up. Copy of it, but once it gets there, I do plan on picking it up and playing it and going through it, but just to experience it and see how it is. But let us know down in the comments below. Have you played the game? And what do you think about it? Let us know. Other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Help us out. Hit the bell notification to stay updated with new videos that we do all the time, and we'll see you next time.